Hey everybody, it's Wednesday.
Hey,
Hello, Emily Miller. If it's Wednesday, it must be Facebook Live Day here at beadshop.com. Hooray!
On a slightly cold and blustery, foggy, typical
Right?
summer in the Bay Area.
That's right. They call it the June gloom, but it's not
Right.
June yet.
Well, it's getting there.
It's the May gloom.
It is the May gloom. But
Terribly
it was
poor.
raining this morning on me when I came
It
in.
was, I know.
Sprinkling.
But you know what? In California, we'll take any rain.
That's
we
true.
get.
That's
It
true.
is true. Well, it's great to have everybody. As always, you guys, we're coming live to you on Wednesday here from beadshop.com on Facebook Live. You can always watch all of our broadcasts. We know that some of you are new, and it's great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You can always watch us live, like you are right now, or if some of you are watching us on the replay later, you can watch us 3 different ways. You can check us out on our YouTube channel, and I strongly urge that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, right? Because
Yep.
there's all kinds of great content.
And you want to know the minute stuff that goes up
Right,
there.
it'll give you an automatic update for that because we've got some fun stuff that's going to be going up on our YouTube channel soon. It might have to do with Bead and Button, which I'll talk about in a second.
A really big show.
The big show. So you can watch us there on YouTube. You can watch us right here on our Facebook Live page, our Facebook page, under videos, and you go to playlists, and it's under the Facebook Live Wednesday videos. You can also watch our Free Tip Friday videos and stuff there. And of course, if you go right on over to our website, beadshop.com, that's where all of the products and projects and all of that, that's where all of that lives. But you'll also see the videos archived there.
It's really
So-
nice that they are archived in sequential order or date
Yeah.
order. So the most recent thing is at the top left corner.
Yeah.
And then it goes down from
Goes
there. So you
down.
can go all
Yeah.
the way to the back, to
Yeah.
the beginning.
Back to the beginning.
You know, and it's nice. It's all laid out with little thumbnails, so you know what the projects
Karen
are.
and Drea do a beautiful job writing it up, and we have some really great projects there. We also have now a home for our Free Tip Friday. I know a lot of you watch kind of our slightly less formal broadcast on Fridays.
I pop in occasionally.
You do.
I don't always
indeed.
make it for the whole thing,
Well,
but
you know.
I'm on my 10-minute break or something. And
Sometimes they run long. I like to run long on Fridays. So you'll see right up at the navigation bar, it'll say Free Tip Friday, and you can click. All of the Free Tip Fridays are listed, and if you go to our blog, it's called the Bead Table. And you just search Bead Table blog, or there's a link from it on our homepage on beadshop.com. And you put Free Tip Friday in the search box. All the Free Tip Friday info comes up where I've written about the project. There's materials lists, all kinds of cool stuff. So really utilize our blog as well. It's a great way to keep
well, the
in
Free Tip
touch.
Fridays, it's fun. You know, it's a little faster moving, and it's more concentrated.
Yeah.
Kate. Concentrated Kate.
It is. Like concentrated orange juice, just me.
Exactly.
That's right. Well, it's great to have everybody jumping on. We've got Janice behind the camera, and I'm sure that our Drea...
Actually, we have
my-
Brandon behind the camera, and Janice is moderating.
well, what? They're all that
make
way.
it-
Let's make it right.
Let's
Let's
get
do
it
it
right.
right.
Come on.
Brandon is behind the camera. Janice is moderating on the comments, and I know our Gita will be
Hi,
jumping
Gita.
on as well to do some moderating and
From
stuff.
Finland.
Yes, and we've got a lot of really everybody's here. It's great to see you all. And I saw someone jump on that I want to share. Who is heading up this great thing that we're doing at Bead and Button. Janice and I are teaching at the Bead and Button show. It's the big premier bead show that everybody waits all year for. It's in Milwaukee,
It's
Wisconsin.
the really big show.
It's the big show.
Yeah.
The big show. It happens in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the first week of June every year. So Janice and I are teaching our color study project, which is great, and it's filling up. But if you guys are near Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and want to take a class from Janice and I live in person, we'll be teaching that on that Saturday of Bead and Button. Then that Friday, I'm teaching I'm wielding some fire, doing my soldering class there as well. And then I also have an evening beading class, the treasure bracelet, treasure chest bracelet, which is going to be fun. So
When's
we're gonna,
the When's the big event at Bean Bun? The big
So
throwdown.
the throwdown. So that's what I wanted to mention. On Thursday night of the Bean and Button show, there's always a preview night for shopping. Well, our buddy Brenda Schwader, along with fabulous instructor Eva Sherman, got their heads together and they talked about, it would always be fun to do kind of like a competition, like
Project
Chopped,
Runway.
right, or Project Runway or something like that, but for beads. So that Thursday night of the preview night starts at 4 o'clock and I think runs until 8 or something like that. But the competition is called Project Embellish, and so I got chosen. I was very excited for that.
You're
Thank
a natural
you.
for
Well,
that. Are you kidding?
We'll see.
I wish I was
we'll
going to be there
happens.
with you, but
yeah,
you're a
me
natural.
too. Me too. I need you, Emily Miller. But it's me and Eva Sherman and some other great instructors that are escaping me. Francesca Watson, Gwen Youngblood, Stephen James is going to be there.
You're going to have Janice there with you.
Yeah, so Janice will be filming we'll be doing a feed, Facebook Live feed, and I'm going to be chatting with Brenda a little bit later today, making a plan for that. So we'll be bringing that competition to you, and that's going to be, that date is, I will tell you.
How long does that competition go on?
It's going to be Thursday, June 7th, and it'll start like at 4 p.m. Central Time, I think is when Milwaukee. We have 3 hours to complete a piece. So I have already shipped my things and sent them to Beat 'em Button. So my tools are on their way. Yeah.
In your beautiful dresses.
We'll see what happens. I don't know.
I think it's a great idea, and it's going to be really interesting to see. They're going to give you kind of a surprise box, right, of things.
Yeah, so there's a box, and there's like tools, and there's, I don't know, we have like money to spend on the show floor. That's why I need you.
You need me to run and
because
get your stuff?
Emily, so why would it be any different than a regular day?
Any day?
Emily, go get me a disc. But I have $25 to spend on the show floor, and so who knows? I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be really fun.
Well,
Janice is going to be filming.
You can put me on live, and I'll help you live.
Yeah, that'd be great. You're like my lifeline.
Right.
What was that show?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Right. Can I use my lifeline? Emily, I'm going to totally do it.
Okay.
Emily, what do I do here?
Put me on FaceTime, and
I'll
I'll help you find something, or
it'll be really fun.
I'll start thinking about who you should see.
Right, who I should see. And there is, Brenda just put in the comments, there's a surprise element that they throw out.
That's kind of nauseating.
Knowing Brenda Schwader, it's going to be something kind of kicky. I can't wait. Give me that kicky element.
It's going to be.
I'm ready.
Like
a super cool found object or something.
Or they're gonna make you use the Beat and Button pin, incorporate the Beat and Button pin,
or like wire wrap with plastic gloves or something.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows what it's gonna be?
Oh God, you're gonna have to. I didn't even think about that.
It's gonna be really fun.
Or blindfolded.
It's gonna be fun. So what we've got today is gonna be really fun. We're gonna have a great kind of throwback Wednesday. When we had the brick and mortar store, when beadshop.com was the bead shop.
Back in the day.
One of the first classes that I taught on my own, we had a lot of classes that we taught. We taught a stringing techniques class, we taught an earring class, Janice taught her pearl knotting, but I asked her pretty early on after I came on board, I said, how come we don't have a wire class, Janice? And she said, how come you're not teaching one? And I said, okay, let's do it. So our class called Wild About Wire was born. And Wild About Wire was such a popular class. I literally taught thousands and thousands of people how to wrap wire, that way back when kind of online before online
when you could go to the video store and rent
a VHS. I was going to say DVD, but this isn't even a VHS. It's we did a series.
It's not Betamax.
We did right. Totally. We did a series of instructional videos. We did a stringing class. We did a class called Wild About Wire, which is something I'm going to share with you today. And Janice did a pearl knotting class, all on VHS. And
does anybody have a VHS player anymore?
Anymore? You do?
I do.
Oh, that'd be so funny. Put this in. So
because my wedding video is on a VHS tape.
VHS. Well,
yeah.
So some of you may even have this out there. I don't know, but if you get your hands on one and you watch it, you'll see a very young.
I wonder if it's at any libraries or anything.
Maybe. I don't know. You can always Google it.
Yeah.
But it's called The Wild About Wire from the Bead Shop. So it was a really, really fun way to start getting our classes out on a national level. And so many people learned from these tapes, and it's so funny. Amy just said, "Be kind, rewind."
Yes.
It is so true.
That's right, and you had a separate rewinder. Like,
right,
what was
so you wouldn't
wear out the other
out your VHS player.
You know,
we used to rent a VHS player because my grand was like, "Oh no, honey, we're not buying a VCR."
I got a.
So we had to rent one.
I had a
when we went to watch it.
VCR player as a wedding gift, and we used it till it totally crapped out,
Till it
and
died.
then we got another. Then we got a DVD player. I don't think we got another.
Yeah. We don't
VHS
even
player.
have a working DVD player right now. It's crazy.
Oh,
We've
well.
got to get because
Yeah.
we've got to get one. I have
So,
so
you
many.
know, I took jewelry making in high school and in college, a couple of different classes in college, metalsmithing, more metalsmithing, not so much beads.
Mm-hmm.
And when I kind of came back to the bead world as a new beader,
Mm-hmm.
the bead store that I was working at had this great instructor who would come and teach classes, and I said, I'm going to take this class because I don't really I can't make an earring. I
You
can't
are
make
so
the loop.
funny.
And I don't understand what I'm doing wrong, you know, because it seems like it should be such a simple thing.
An easy thing.
It should be, and that's why you call that first little loop a simple loop.
Right.
And so I took this class, and lo and behold, it was taught by Kate Richburg. And I vividly remember her sitting around the table, and everyone introduced themselves, and she said, "It's very nice to meet you," and she'd say your name so that she knew your name. And
It's very nice. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining me.
Very nice to
Thank
have you here
it's
tonight.
It's a pleasure.
And it was, I remember walking away from the class thinking, wow, she really does this, you know, this is sort of a professional thing. So that was probably around 1994, 95 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then fast forward a few years, and I was doing that same thing.
Yeah, you were the class director over at Baubles and Beads in Berkeley.
And so I taught thousands of people. At one point I would teach sort of five classes a week.
Yeah.
And so you'd have 40 people a week or so in your classes, and you'd add that up over 14 years. It was some numbers.
It's a long darn time. I know.
You know.
Well, it's so funny to think about like those early days of like teaching and stuff like that, because there weren't, you know, we didn't have this medium certainly, and we barely had this VHS medium.
And VHS, I think everybody was acutely aware that you wanted to put out something professional, and you wanted it to be like the experience that you would have in the classroom. And this medium that we have now really does the best job, I think.
Yeah, I think it's great.
We don't have to worry so much about extra high production values, and we don't do any editing. It's just like you would see it in a class. Sometimes teachers in the class, they say, roll that wire down, and they're pushing up, and you're like, wait, what?
What happened? Yeah.
Mistakes get made, and we say the wrong thing. Our tongues get tangled up. But this medium to me is the most similar in that live feeling.
Well, because our students, they're not just sitting around the bead table here, but you're sitting at home watching us, which is really super cool.
You know, we always loved the idea of shopping online where you could sit around in your jammies, you know, and
that's right.
We don't judge you if you're actually in your jammies, but
we're
all dressed.
We wish that we were in our jammies. Someday we'll do a show in our jammies.
Well,
I think,
we have Halloween coming up. I'm really excited about that. Actually,
you never know what we're gonna. I mean, it is only May, but we've got a long time to plan.
We have to start talking about.
We have to plan.
You know.
So not only did Emily take that class from me, but Cara also took a wire wrapping class from me back in our brick and mortar days. And Brandon also. Brandon, did we do these together?
I think I know you were
involved
us.
Either at the store or we got together and made stuff.
It was either in a class or we were just hanging out.
And so, and we'll show you guys these when we move the camera. Brandwin and Cara both brought their samples from, I
It's
don't know.
amazing that they still
These
have
samples,
them.
I know, they're probably, I don't know, 20 years old
I
almost.
don't
probably,
have
right?
mine anymore.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, fine.
You know,
Emily Miller.
Well, and I was always
You'll
one of
have
those
another
people who
one
was
today.
super dissatisfied with the first one, and then I
Right.
would cut it apart and make it like 5 more times, and then go,
Right.
"Oh, look what I made!"
Right.
As if it was like the first one.
Right.
I did it right the first time.
Right.
No.
Well, well, it's great. So thanks so much, you guys, for all the love that you're giving us right now. We really, really appreciate it. So let's jump in. We're going to move the camera around, and I want to show you a little bit about what we're going to be using today, and I want to share these samples with you, and then we're going to jump in and get started because we've got so much wiring to do. Just real quick, if you are new and you do want to be notified about all of our goings-on that are coming up at Beat and Button, Janice and I will also be filming from there. We'll be popping in from our class, all kinds of great stuff. Go to beadshop.com and sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way to communicate with us.
It's the best way to get
Yeah.
noticed right
Yeah.
when it's going to happen.
Right away. And
Yep.
also for the learning for all of these Facebook Lives, you can come in to the Facebook feed and after the fact, fast forward about 15 minutes into the broadcast and you'll get right to the learning.
Look,
You
past
can
all the
also,
chitty chat.
yeah, past all this chit chat. You can also go to beadshop.com and in each project, Facebook Live project, Drea does a roundup, kind of the Cliff Notes version of our broadcast, and we post those episode notes on Monday. So there's a full materials list. If you want to know about the jewelry we're wearing or anything else we bring up, it's all encapsulated in those episode notes. Those are posted on the Monday following the Wednesday broadcast. And they are current now, like if last week when you watched Textured Fringe, if you haven't downloaded those episode notes, go over, download them, and you'll
Yeah, it's
see.
a really good job, Drea,
Yeah.
and everything looks great.
So good. So
Yeah.
it's really like a class. Drea writes I don't know, feels like she writes a dissertation every week with those. So
You know, it's nice.
She does a great
she's
job.
definitely doing the distilling. You know, so if you watch a video and you missed a little bit and you roll it back and forth a couple times, then the notes are nice. It's a place to make a note
Yeah.
if you need to, but she puts in the timestamps so you can, if
All
you
the
want to
stuff-
see
right,
that
so you
one
can go right in.
section, pull right ahead to that one particular
Yeah,
part.
you get right there.
But you know, we're lucky to have Karen doing great photography
Yeah.
and great editing. And it's just, things look so amazing.
They
It's
do
it's really
look so
super.
good.
Yeah, and
Brandwin's
I love
action
making
shots during the broadcast.
I love making all my little charts for
Looks
things
great,
because
yeah.
that just is what I
Looks
do.
good. Yeah.
You know, I have
It
to
is.
do that.
You do a great job
I
with
have
those
to
charts.
do that. I need them.
I know. Gotta have those charts.
Gotta have them.
Seed beater.
Wire worker.
That's right. All right. Well, let's turn this camera around. I'm setting up the arm here, and let's get this show on the road. So, let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing, and I'll take the camera, Brandon, when you're ready. I think we'll see. There we go. We'll just turn this sucker around. See how we're doing. Look at that, how I just locked that in, Emily Miller. Sort
You're
of.
the best.
Well, I'm getting better at this camera. Who knew? Let's straighten everything out here so we can see what we've got. Make sure that we're not so... How's that looking, Bran?
Looking pretty good.
Pretty good? Is this a good space? We're in a really good space right now?
Pen and the paper in
All right.
focus there.
Alrighty.
So if you guys are looking for episode notes where they are specifically, each project from Facebook Live the following week, if you go in and look at the project, there's a little button right below the picture and above the materials list, and it says download episode notes here. And so you click on that and it'll automatically come up for you. You can print it if you need to, or just read it on your screen or
Right.
whatever you want to do with that.
There we go. I'm just getting this into position so you guys can kind of see. I'll take that in a second.
Okay.
So these are some of the pieces that the piece that I did for today, and then the pieces which I think is so fun that Cara and Brandwin brought in for the kind of for the throwback, I guess. The throwback Wednesday here.
It's definitely a throwback.
Definitely, right? So this is the piece that Cara brought in. And Cara, you took this class at the bead shop, right? Way back when. Yeah. And Cara now, she's a very accomplished wire wrapper. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back and you a pat on the back, Cara. It was really great. And then Brandon brought these pieces in. This was a piece done by our friend Linda, who is a great jewelry designer now, does some really great stuff. And Brandon did these two pieces, also great. And I think we must have got together and done a bead night or something, either at one of our places or at my store. So it was really fun. So it's cool to see these kind of old school kind of pieces that from way back when. So I guess it's a timeless design. Who knew? All right. But so good.
I really always felt like this was such a good kind of relaxing wire wrapping piece. It's not the pressure of tiny beads or big wire or any of those things. It doesn't have any pressure associated with it. And it's really nice.
And it's really a free form. Yeah.
That one, the triangle one, that's the very first thing I ever really did.
Was it the very first thing? Yeah.
It was not intimidating. It was it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see some things that need work, but it was the very first thing I ever did.
And you still have it. Oh. Well,
like Emily, reworking it till it got red.
Right. Brandon's all, this is good.
I would cut it up and like start again.
Right. Well, I'm going to hand those back to Bran, and we're going to take. It's so great. I love that you still have those, Brandon. It's so awesome. And those were all semi-precious, what we call pie or donuts, really, right? And they just launched today. Karen worked super hard, and Janice both, to get these up on the website for you guys today. So we've got some new things. We've got the pie, or what I like to call the semi-precious discs. We've carried them in the 40 millimeter, which is this size. This is the standard size that you guys will see from us. And then people also call them pie or discs or donuts, whatever floats your boat. But we've gotten these new 30 millimeters in. And so I'm just going to, I love that sound. Let me just make a giant pile. You did such a good job. And let's just pour a few more out, right? There we go. And so, yes, I love this howlite. We've got howlite, we've got sodalite, we've got
Dalmatian Jasper,
tiger eye, Dalmatian Jasper, which is so unusual. Unikite, the red aventurine, red jasper, fancy jasper here. My super favorite. I love this pyrite. And you know what I love is this snowflake obsidian. I love, and we have the onyx and of course rose quartz. And then which one is? Why can't I remember? What's this one? This one is. I'm gonna have to look. Someone will link it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep them all in my head.
This is my favorite right here.
I'll look. It's ocean jasper. That's what this one is.
This is my favorite, the crazy lace.
Oh, crazy lace. Yes. Look at that.
I think when I first started buying beads, I got really... I was really attracted by the romance of all the names and the stones. And to be able to hand someone a necklace and say, this is vintage glass and crazy lace jasper, knotted on silk with a gold-filled glass. It meant something to me.
Yeah, it's so fun. And what I love about these stones is, they're so unique. They're from the earth. So when you guys order, they're going to expect some differences, okay? But when we added these in, I personally did all the buying for these. I pulled all these out and kind of made sure that everything was nice and smooth and there weren't any cracks or anything in these. So the quality of these discs are really, really beautiful. And again, that 30 millimeter, if we show it next to our 40 millimeter size, there's that guy there, and then here's this guy here. So you can see it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah, the 40 millimeter is a nice size for a pendant, but really it's a pendant. You can't go anywhere
Yeah,
else
right,
with that.
right.
And these you could go to an earring with
You could.
a minor amount of
Yeah,
embellishing.
yeah.
It would still make a great earring.
And with this earring, you could also, we have those glue-on earring backs.
Yeah, you can make a post.
You could do a post with this. It would look just beautiful. You could also add, these are from our Vintage Finds collection because these are older pieces. I also pulled a few pieces from, excuse my arm here, you guys, from our Vintage Finds collection that I just kind of grabbed that this technique could also work with. I got this square connector. As I said, I got this 40mm pie. This little warrior right here, we love this. Janice just used it in one of her pendants. The pinwheel, we used Wanderlust, I grabbed. This Lucky Charm, and of course Perfect Pie in the earth tones. So anything, all of these different things in my in our Vintage Finds are a great way to kind of play around with this wire wrapping technique. Emily tossed this one on top of this one, or you could, do some stacked pieces.
Susan was saying, is this small pie good size for a wrap bracelet? I'm assuming using it as the button.
As the button,
I think
you
it's a little
could.
big.
It might be a little bit big, but let me put it on my wrist for scale. If I were wire wrapping or something, and maybe looking at, is that better, Bryn? Right there?
Good, right there.
Maybe, let me use something that's not quite my
Skin
skin
tone.
tone. There we go. If I were using this, or let me switch it actually over to my wrist here. If I were using this, let's say, in a wrap, if I were doing a wrap maybe that was a little chunkier, I think it would certainly be a statement piece, but it wouldn't be totally out of place, I don't think, kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't see why not. So let's continue to look at this piece before we actually jump into the technique. I'm gonna let you kind of fix it.
corral
The
those?
Vintage Finds are all mixed up in their M, so
That's all right.
you know how it is. So basically, this piece starts with this embellished disc. And years ago, when I got the idea for doing this, you know how it is when you're a brand new beater, right? Or at least it was for me. I wanted to wear like all of the beads together. Like I wanted to kind of smush them up, and I don't know. I wanted like an encrusted, pretty, interesting kind of piece to wear. So that's what happened. That's where this one was born. I thought that the disc was a great background for it. And then I just started to kind of wrap wire and string beads and wrap wire. And to me, this has kind of a textile feel to it because, I come from kind of a textile background, in the theater doing costuming. So that's what this kind of said to me.
It's interesting that you call it a background piece because it is kind of a launching pad. And it's often that you don't find things that are plain where the surface isn't highly embellished already. That you can kind of launch off of. And
Right.
it kind of happens that way for me too. I kind of appreciate that it's that encrusted layer and that you're embellishing not to cover the stone
but
at
to
all,
enhance
but
it,
to
really.
enhance it.
Yeah.
And then look at this little happenstance.
Right, this little,
That just
this
didn't get
little
picked up.
threesome.
Look at that little threesome. Isn't
Yeah,
that fun together?
so pretty. So pretty.
Yeah, that would look really
You
nice.
could, I don't know, however you wanted
Yeah.
to line these guys up. You could play lining these up all day.
Right.
Right? It would be really cool. And for this piece, I embellished a row of 3 discs here. But this is, and I'll put this on after, when we move the camera again at the end of the broadcast. You could make this a complete necklace just all the way around with discs. I did mine, I'll be honest, because I didn't have that much time to create this sample, honestly.
And this is the
But
Poppy Jasper that
This
you
is the
chose.
Poppy Jasper, yeah. And so, is it the Poppy Yeah, it's the Poppy Jasper that I
Poppy
used.
Jasper.
And what I did here was just kind of embellish some leather. So, you could also, on this side, connect it to multiple strands of chain. You could string. This really is a jumping off point for your designs. we have a recipe on how to kind of choose your own pieces. So however you want to do it, this is the ultimate in kind of, personalizing it to what you like. So what I've used in the project, I used this pie, this Poppy Jasper pie, and then I got some of our 8/0, this aged moss. Any of our aged check beads would look amazing. You could also use any just regular 8/0, 6/0, whatever, whatever works for you in a small bead.
I pulled the
Then-
Silverleaf donut,
Oh yeah, the
which I
silver
thought I
leaf.
might work with.
Yes,
because
look at
I've
that
always
silver leaf.
liked that stripiness.
Yeah, I love the
And I
stripy.
pulled the Tide Pool.
Oh, the Tide Pool with that. Look at how nice that looks. And then I thought I always like using a little bit of a metal spacer. So I went old school with the copper daisy spacer. And then I added the Tiara Hishi for that. And then I went a little bit bigger, and you can see I used it on this one. I grabbed the big shadows in antique copper, and then I used the Sahara Sands in the Sahara Sands, the gold, the brass color, and then to kind of set it off a little bit more to use for the wire wraps in between, I used the Pony Express bead, and you can see right here with that Pony Express, and we'll talk about making these wire wrap beaded units as well, how I've used some of the elements in here to create that unit. And this unit would also make a great earring if you were going to make an earring
Absolutely.
to go with this piece. Okay, so so that's what I used. Oh, and then a final soupçon of interest, right? I used a bugle, and you can see this 12 millimeter bugle. What I used here were the bronze pale gold bugle. But you can see how it's kind of hanging off the edge there. I did that intentionally because I wanted it to have a little, I don't know,
A little more
interest.
dimension.
Yeah, a little
Yep.
more dimension. So,
Not playing it safe,
no,
Kate Richburg. I
and
like it.
dig deep into your bead stash. This is a great stash buster for you as well. So Emily's going to work with some pieces here as well. What did you pull out,
I pulled
Em?
a sort of a similar palette in some of the metals. I have the Silverleaf pie, so I have 3 of those, and I pulled the brass hishi, antique brass hishi. I used the silver daisy spacers
spacer,
instead.
yeah, real
right?
nice.
Because those, I needed a little sparkle, but I didn't want to do all silver. I did the big shadows in the antique silver, the Pony Express and antique silver also.
Yes, which I love.
I know.
I'm gonna straighten the camera
Okay.
just a touch. We're a little tilty.
And the Sahara Sands in the brass, which, there's a silver one of those as well, but golly, I just saw the Sahara Sands in that brass color. And I was
Right,
like,
and they were just so nice.
Yummy. And the bugle I chose, I really like choosing beads, and this won't be a surprise to anybody. I like choosing beads that are already a mix, and this actually has about 3 colors in it, sort of a very antiqued rose gold, and a little bit of a pewter, and then a little bit of brass.
Love those.
And
love them.
I thought that when I put that pie with them, that color really kind of played off that really well. I also really like these stripes on this, and I hope to, when I do my embellishing, kind of either continue those stripes or go against them to give it a little bit of movement.
No, they look really, really good. I almost chose those, but I wanted something a little brighter,
Yeah.
so I'm glad you grabbed those. And I love the silver with that.
Good.
Yeah.
And then just to really
straighten
make
this.
things go another direction, I did the bronze leather.
Oh, nice. I like that bronze
Right?
leather.
Because I thought it went well with those other beads.
You guys, bear with me here just a little bit. It kind of feels like we're going downhill a little bit with the
Leaning
view.
to the
so
side.
just kind of sorry. I'm just fixing the camera angle here. We're a little angled, but you guys will have to just deal.
Oh yeah, maybe this guy.
Yeah, I think it's this. There we go. I think that might be a little bit better. There we go. I think we're a little less leaning downhill. You can see in Branduin's feed.
Oh, okay.
That's a little bit better. Okay, thanks you guys for bearing with me. I think that's better. It was a little
Oh, and also, just to round things
fixated on
out,
that.
I'm so glad we have the Parawire, and I was
Yeah,
a big
so-
proponent of that.
Let's talk about this wire because that's going to lead us right into what we're
I
doing.
chose the bright silver. So I'm kind of a mix of bright silvers and muted silvers, some antique silvers, and that little bit of a brass is kind of my other color, my other metal color.
No, I love that. And we just launched the Parawire in the non-tarnished silver and the non-tarnished gold.
Yep.
You know, Parawire is all made in the U.S., made right here in the United States.
Right here in East Orange, New Jersey.
Right, East Orange, New Jersey, right there. And it's great. The quality of the wire is great. The it's just a really terrific wire to work with. I'm really excited because, as you guys know, when we did the Viking Knit episode, with Viking Knit, we did one that I antiqued, and we used the bare copper wire for that.
Right.
What I've done today is I've also used the bare copper, but I have done a little trick. And do you have the liver of sulfur over there?
I do.
I actually have pre-oxidized the wire that I'm going to be using
And
today.
this is kind of a new product, too. We haven't really talked about it
No,
much, have
I
we?
did this on a Free Tip Friday to kind of talk about how to use the liver of sulfur. And so you guys can check that out to get more information on how to mix it and everything. But the thing when you're doing a project like this with these wire wrapped pieces, sometimes I don't want to dip this whole piece in right after I make
it. It
it.
would be an awful lot of
It
polishing.
would, an awful lot of polishing. Plus, I don't want to get this, like the Sahara Sands. Maybe I don't want to antique that. Maybe I have some metals that I don't want to antique. So I go ahead and I pre-oxidize everything. So before the broadcast, Emily whipped up a little batch of liver of sulfur, and she reeled off some of the 22 gauge wire right off of this, the bare copper wire, and we just dipped it so it's pre-oxidized. You're going to see my hands get dirtier and dirtier during this broadcast, but you can see when I start to polish this wire up, and I'm going to actually wrap with it dark, and then I'll polish it after I'm completed the piece. But you just use that Pro Polish pad and see how I can come in with my Pro Polish and I can start to polish that wire up, and you can see that the copper starts to come up.
You know, those
come up
Pro
here.
Polish pads are a little bit like magic. Mm-hmm. And when I first was shown them, I thought, oh my God, where have you been all my life?
Right, I know, Pro Polish pad.
They're very lightly textured, but if you are aggressive with them, they will mat your wire a bit or your metal a little bit. So they're a great polishing tool, but you want to go slowly with them.
Yeah.
You don't need to be real aggressive.
No.
And you can use all the edges as well. So if you're going to try and get in a little tight corner, you can actually use it on its
Get that
edge.
scrub, yeah. Or
Yeah.
sometimes what I do is I fold it into a little point like that too, and I'll
absolutely,
use
to get in
that
that little
point.
spot.
So I'm going to reel off some of this wire. This is 22 gauge. Now, Em, you were starting to straighten out your wire.
I did.
I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut. I don't even know. I've done this for so long. I don't even know how long I'm going to cut this, but I'll measure it for you so you guys can see. I'm going to cut about a half a yard. I'm going to cut about 18 inches of wire here, and I'm going to come in and give that a cut. Now, as I said, I can polish this after I finish oxidizing, or after I finish wrapping, rather. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to, first I'm going to straighten this with my wire straightening plier, just like this. Run it
another
through
thing
that
I like
nylon
about,
jaw.
pre-oxidizing our wire is that if you're using beads that are transparent, you may want to polish where the bead's going to sit on the wire.
Exactly. So
but if
that
you
the
dip the whole
oxidation
thing, you'll have a black line kind of running through the bead.
Yeah, exactly.
Which sometimes it shows and sometimes it doesn't,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a something you want to think about a little bit ahead.
So maybe I will, since we really antiqued this nice and dark, I'm going to kind of...
As far as I know, the liver of sulfur just has to go ground.
Yeah.
Um,
Nope. We're
yeah.
just shipping it.
Shipping it.
Ground. There's no special.
So-
it's not an acid. It's
No.
it's a naturally occurring.
Sulfurated potash.
Yes, sulfurated potash. So, it's not. It's just it smells terrible. But
So the liver of sulfur in the gel, especially, we've kind of in the jewelry business. There's always things changing and being modernized. And when I started making jewelry back in high school, we actually used liver of sulfur in a pebble form.
Yeah,
so it came
the
in
pebble.
a little canister, and it smelled really bad. And you took a little pebble out and you dissolved it in water. And once that dissolved was turned yellow, and you put your silver pieces in, and then you would polish it. To dispose of it, you just dump some baking soda in it, and then we would just let it dry into a chunk and then toss that
right,
out.
toss it out. Right.
So one of the problems with the pebbled liver of sulfur is that it oxidizes on its own
And
in the
loses
jar.
its potency.
Loses its
Yeah.
mojo for sure.
Yep.
So one thing that I really love about the liver sulfur gel is that it's got a 10-year shelf life, and we sell it in this little bottle. You know, this is
That
a
bottle's going to last you forever.
1 ounce. That's probably a lifetime supply for any person not doing it commercially.
Yeah.
And you use about one fattish drop
Yeah.
per about a quarter cup of water.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do we have directions on
Yeah,
the
we
web
do.
on these?
I wrote some.
Okay.
When you go to the liver of sulfur product page,
Right.
I wrote a whole bunch of
Dissertation about that?
I did.
Good for
I
you.
did
Good for
actually.
you.
So it's all on there, and
I actually think
if
that
you
this
guys
gel-
have any questions,
It does smell. Liver
It
sulfur
does.
smells like a rotten egg. And it's a strong smell, but it's not a kind of greasy smell, so it tends to clear out fairly quickly. I think the liver of sulfur gel smells less, for sure.
I do too, and I think that you can really regulate, like how much you're using,
Yep.
and I think it in the gel it's great. So you can see here's the oxidized, my 22 gauge that's oxidized, and here's my wire. My shiny wire. So again, you can also, if you want to be a little more aggressive with getting more of the oxidation off, you could use some steel wool or
Sure.
even some really, really fine grit sandpaper. But I love the oxidized look, so I'm not going to do much more polishing with this.
And this is bare copper, so it will oxidize naturally.
It will.
If you
Right,
happen to
it's
live
not
in an area that
it's
has...
not a non-tarnish.
If you happen to live in an area that has some hot springs, or you know that you have more sulfur in your water, it's something that you could actually change without liver of sulfur.
Yeah,
maybe.
we actually had an old family friend that lived in the backwoods of Oregon, and they had sulfurated water.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was so, I don't know. It's so funny to think that just occurs naturally. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up my disc. We'll just get started. I just pick up my disc. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail. I don't know, maybe that's about 1.5 inches or so. My tape measure fell on the ground, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I just wrap, and I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go through the center of the disc, right? And I want you to hang on to this wire lightly, you guys, right? Just chillax. Don't worry. Don't worry about making a mistake. This is the ultimate in free form. So don't hang on to this like it's a lifeline. Just hold it loosely in your hands. So I've made one pass around the disc so that things are kind of anchored here, right? So now I'm going to choose, I don't know, some beads to slide on there. I've got these 8mm or these 8/0 here, so I'm going to get a couple of these 8/0. Maybe I'll throw on a daisy spacer like that, and maybe, I don't know, another 8/0. And then I've got my little grouping of beads here, so I'm going to slide them down. And I'm going to kind of nestle them up on the top of my disc, and I like the way that looks. So I'm going to take another pass through the center of the disc. And notice, you guys, when I'm making that pass, see how my wire is nice and loose, right? I'm not like inching the wire through. It's staying nice and straight. If you get a little kink in your wire, it's no big deal. All I'll do is, whoops, stay there, beads. I'll just come in with my nylon jaw plier like this, ta-da, and slide it on through. Okay, so that does it. And then I can decide, well, do I want a plain wire next to it? I don't know. Maybe I do. Oh, you tell me, right? Then I'll put on some more beads. I don't know, maybe another 8/0, maybe this big shadow, and maybe I'll bookend it with another 8/0. And beads that are kind of flattish like this big shadow, they sit really nicely on that, okay? So I'm going to come around, again, pull it through. If you have trouble gripping, like sometimes, I don't know, my thumbs don't work as well as they used to, right? So I'll grip it with my bent chain nose or my chain nose. And maybe I'll go through once, and maybe I'll pass through this time twice, just for fun, right? And then maybe it's time for a bugle. I don't know. Again, you tell me.
Well, I started off with bugles because Emily has a hard time following directions.
Right?
So
Nicely done.
I started off with those 3. And actually, one was a little shorter than the other, so I'm kind of thinking it's going to give me a little bit of a flare outwards. I think these are the bugles that you used in your tiara.
Yeah,
Are
I
they?
think they might be. Or I can't remember. I need to look. I need to look. But see, there's that bugle. And then I haven't touched the Terahishi yet, so I'll put on yet another. I'll get this little stripy stripe, and I'll get a Terahishi, and there's another stripy stripe. I like the looks of that from that mix, that seed bead mix. This next one. And Cindy says that she sees that the beads are not right up to the edge. Yeah, let me put this one on, make this a little bit longer. The beads, they can go kind of closer to the edge. Can you see that? They kind of fan out a little bit if I do that. So if I keep them kind of towards the center, but I could probably get another like hishi and stripy bead on there. So let me see what that looks like. You know, you just do you on this one. There is no wrong answer. And see, so there's 4 now. And so those 4, that looks kind of like a cool little pod. I like the looks of that.
Oh, Cindy, was that your tipped over box of beads I saw on the Facebook?
I don't know if it was.
Oh.
We've got 2 Cindy's. I'm not sure whose tipped over box that was.
Oh gosh,
but
somebody tipped over all their whole box
Right,
of
of
their
beads.
beads. Oh, it
So-
happens to the best of us.
I want to show you here. There's a little kink in that wire, and it's kind of hard to get the wire straightener to get that little kink out. So I'm going to just kind of press onto that little kinked wire going one way and then the other way with my bent chain. Then it's a little less dire of a kink wire there. So I'll come in and I will kind of straighten it out that way. And that looks like it's working pretty well. So now I'll do a couple more passes, right? A couple more like this. And then maybe I'll do one last roundabout here. And I'll get a couple more of these.
So I thought I'd
And
use
maybe I'll
a few,
use this guy. Oh yeah, look at that.
daisies in a row.
Yeah, that looks really cool. I think maybe I'll just put the Sahara sands on there like that. And then I'm going to finish by bringing that last piece of wire. I like those repeats in there. Okay, so you guys can see I've embellished about half the disc, and I have a length of wire coming out here that I'll straighten and straighten, and I'll straighten this one out. Okay, so you can see on like this one here, on one of them, you can, I may have started and stopped on one of these. So, you know, I've done like a section. Yeah, I think I did that here. You can see if I kind of pull them apart. This is actually done in 2 different sections. So it doesn't matter. If you want to use the, you know, if you want a larger section that's embellished, just keep wrapping. It doesn't matter, right? So now, with this, I'm going to show you how to finish it off. And again, this is 22 gauge, 22 gauge wire. I'm going to make a little spiral. And again, this maybe it's about 1.5 inches. I don't know. I can't, my tape measure fell on the floor. Let me see if I can get a, I've got it.
Get your caliper.
I can. Or Brandon can get it. Brandon's got it. Brandon's diving under the table. Thanks, Bran.
Sure.
Let me measure this out so you guys can see how long these wire tails are. About an inch and I was right. About an inch and a half. Who knew? Awesome. And this one about 2 inches here on this side. So I'm going to pull kind of this wire towards me. I'm going to get the tip of my chain nose pliers here, right? And I'm just going to bend it at a little bit of a curve, kind of smush it down. Smush is a technical term. So that's the center of my spiral.
Collapse it.
Okay, collapse it down. Then I'm going to pull that little interior of the spiral right at the bottom of my chain nose pliers. Okay, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to rotate it down. Okay, so I really grip that in my pliers and I just push the wire up and around. Reposition it that original position. Push it around. Open. Push it around. So that each formation of the spiral that I'm doing is kind of forming on the spiral that comes before it, if that makes sense. See, so it's a nice tight spiral. Just coming in, la la la, spiral it down. Okay? So now I'm just going to push this spiral. I'm the boss of this spiral. So I'm going to come in and just kind of push it down on the surface right there. Okay? It can even, there's a little wire next to it. If I had made it loose enough, I could kind of shove it underneath that wire. But I'm probably going to do another wrap over the top of it so it'll keep it stationary. So now this one will be a little bit of a larger spiral, and I want to make sure that I've got a flush cut on the end here. So I'm flush cutting. Okay. Now I'm just going to do that same old thing, right? Pull it around, tighten it up, put it in the side of my tool, like so. My hands are getting super dirty with all this wire, but that's the life of a wire worker, right?
Well, in a metalsmith, you always end up looking like you've been working on the railroad all
Right,
day.
it's true. I always say, dirty hands are the sign of a creative mind, right? So I'm going to keep spiraling. Spiral, 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 spiral. And then you can decide how you want the spiral to sit. I'm actually going to flip it over. I think it looks a little nicer flipped out away from the group rather than towards. So I've got this guy. So you can see here's the front and here's the back right here. Okay, so if I kind of look at my wires, I can see that there's a little bit of space and stuff in there. So, and this, you can do this if you've got a little bit of extra space. I'm going to come in with my chain nose and I'm going to grab that wire right at a 90-degree angle right there. Can you see that? I'm really pinching it down right there. And I'm going to give this wire a little quarter turn or a little kind of thunderbolt or a little lightning bolt there. Okay.
Little jog.
Little jog. Then I'm going to do that over here. I'm going to come in and maybe I'll grab it and tighten it up maybe towards the top. And maybe this one here, maybe I'll do this. I don't know, maybe I'll do it right up towards the top there. So I really grip it nice and firm. And again, the wire needs to be a little loose. So if your wire is tight, you're going to nick your wire or break your wire. So a little bit of intentional loose wrapping is just fine. And especially on this one with the bugle. That bugle is really
Fragile.
really fragile, but it was fine. I had enough room there. So I'm going to come into the front and I can do that same thing here where I'm going to grab it and twist, just that quarter turn twist. There we go. And I'm going to do it over here on this one. Sometimes if I have a lot of space up at the top here, I can do that here on this, like that right there. You just decide what looks nice to you, right? It can go here, whatever works, but it gives it some nice texture.
One of the things that I like too was doing like the spirals.
Yeah,
on
the
back,
spirals
so
on
you
the
got
back.
Kind of a cool texture on both
Yeah,
sides.
you could totally end this spiral instead of in the front there. You could end it right on the back of the disc. That would also work. So, so there is our single disc. So I'm ready to attach it now, or to create the attached the attached piece to it. I could link these together just, disc, if I wanted, right? But let me show you how I do this wire wrapped piece. Let me
I
prep
really
for
like
that.
having the link in between.
Yeah,
I think
and you show what you've got there, Em, and I'll get
I think
this
that
prepped.
really works well. You need to have a little distance, I think, in between. So I use the Silverleaf pie, silver wire, also 22 gauge. This bugle that I'm using is called the Crystal Gray Rainbow.
Yeah, isn't it nice?
So it's got a bunch of different colors in it. I'll bring that little dish over so you can kind of see. And I use the Tide Pool, the Silver Daisies, and then this is one of the Tide Pool beads, a daisy, antique copper, Hishi, and then the Sahara Sands, and then the same on the other side. So it's sort of tapered down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
It really looks nice.
Yeah.
And I think what you can do, it just shows that similar materials, but
Comes out a whole different look.
yeah, exactly, a whole different way. It would be really fun to do just a whole fan of the bugles across the front.
It really would.
Cool. You can make them as symmetrical or asymmetrical as you want. You can have it go all the way around, 3/4, a quarter, whatever works for you. So let's do that wire wrapped embellished connector that I've got here. So I've cut myself a length of this 22 gauge, and I'm using 22 gauge. I chose 22 gauge. Emily and I were discussing, what size of wire we should use for this. And we like the 22 because it's not super heavy like 20. Not that 20 gauge is that heavy, but visually it still has some weight to it. Whereas 24 gauge might be, with these heavier beads, it would probably do the job, but visually, again, it might be a little thin.
If we moved up to the 40 pie, the Baker pie, I would go to 20 gauge.
To 20 gauge, yeah.
So this is a lot of what I like to talk about with design. When we talk about just design by itself, is picking things that are somewhat proportional, but also being free within that to know that if you're going to have something that's an extreme proportion one way or the other, that you're sort of doing it with some forethought, not just happenstancing it along. You want to kind of think and observe and take a look at what you're doing as you're going along and as you're picking out your beads.
Yeah, and I really think that this 22 gauge rather, it's kind of my sweet spot for wire. I use it a lot.
I use a lot of 24 gauge for wire wrapping if I work with a lot of smaller
with some
stones.
smaller stones, right, like semi-precious, stuff like that, but kind of for the medium range, because sometimes I feel that visually 20 gauge looks a little heavy. So 22 gauge I think is a good one. To jump in with. So let me show you how I make
I
that
have another
wire wrap
question for
unit.
you.
Yeah,
I have
sure.
one more question for
Sure.
you. Do you think it's designing wise to make all three of these and then pick the one that's going to be in the center? Or do you think you should kind of make a center one?
Sure. It's a good question. I think since I was under the gun getting this sample finished, I don't think I was really paying much attention to how I was lining those up.
Okay.
If I were to redo these three, I might put this one in the center because it has the most embellishment.
Okay.
And then I might do this one and this one on either side. It's a great question. But I didn't really think about it until you asked me.
It occurred to me last week after we kind of broke for the day, and the more I looked at it, I felt that as well, that it was sort of a diminishing embellishment to this side, but then having the clasp on that side kind of gives it
Balanced
a different
it a little
focal
bit.
over here.
Yeah.
And I'm always a friend of asymmetry. I've never not liked that. But I didn't know if you'd done it sort of. It was a lucky accident.
It was just
something
this was
on
totally
purpose.
off the cuff.
All right, I like it.
Because that's how we roll sometimes. So let me show you how to make this this connector right here. So I'm going to come in, and we have so much info on wire wrapping. This is a simple wire wrap bead unit. So I am just going to go through this fairly quickly, and you can review that handout when you're ready. I'm going to use my bent chain nose plier here, and I'm going to go down again about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to make a really crisp right angle bend for that. Then I'm going to get my round nose plier, okay? And I'm going to put my round nose plier with the heads one on top of the other so that the wire is coming out between the heads of the tool. And then I'm going to, with this short piece of wire, I'm going to come up and over the top like this, right? And that starts to make my loop. And I'm going to drop it down to the bottom jaw of the tool, okay? And I'm going to push this short piece of wire underneath the plier so I have my loop circling the head of the tool completely, okay? Now, once I take my tool out of the loop, can you see how the loop is kind of bending over to the side a little bit? To get a really good...
It's a little lazy.
Yeah, it's a little lazy. It's leaning over. Well, if it's got time to lean, it's got time to straighten itself out, right? So I'm going to bring it over and I'm going to rotate it around just a little so that loop is right centered over that wire that's coming below it, okay? So now this little piece of wire is kind of flying off like a little scarf, so it's in position to be wire wrapped. So before I wire wrap it, though, I need to connect it. So I'm going to make this piece actually a little bit longer, and I'm going to connect it to this wire wrap bead unit, or this wire wrap pie here. So I'll come in, I'll connect loop to loop like this.
I always think of this as kind of the magic moment.
It is.
You have two chances to do this.
Yes.
One at either end of the
On
link.
either end.
And
yeah.
sometimes you need them both.
Yeah, because sometimes you forget
Yeah, so this kind of magic moment is the moment you get to attach to something.
to attach it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold that loop with my chain nose plier, and I'm going to come in and wrap it around. I'm going to wrap from the bottom of the loop. I'm going to make about 3 wraps. I can use my fingers to bring it around like this, or I can use my bent chain nose.
So when you're wrapping, you're doing a little bit of pulling on this.
Yeah, so see, nice and tight.
Mm-hmm.
180
And do you
degrees
find
at a
yourself
time.
doing a little pressure this way as well?
I do. I'm pulling. This hand has some tension.
Mhm.
This one right here.
Right.
Okay. This hand here, so when I'm wrapping to get these straight wraps, I'm pulling on this hand, my left hand, and with my right hand, so I have some tension there. So that as I wrap around, that tension helps my wraps stay nice and even. Okay. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip away that extra wire. All right. And I'm
Janice
going
says that our voices are
wedge.
very soothing.
We're so soothing.
Soothing.
Well, I'm seeing that people are watching from all over. We have someone watching from India, and it's like midnight there,
my
which
goodness.
I love. So thank you and Beth Brady from Wagga Wagga with her, and she and her kitty cat are watching. So I love that we're keeping you company in the late night hours. We appreciate you guys tuning in from all over the place.
Absolutely.
I think I've got it there. There we
And
go.
we want to see what you make, so
Yeah,
don't forget.
I can't wait.
I loved seeing all the textured fringe bracelets from
yeah,
last week.
from
That
last
was
week.
super exciting.
Didn't they look good?
They did. Every one of them was gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Really nice color paletting.
And can you see how I've just, with my chain nose pliers, you guys, I've just kind of pinched it there so my wire wrap is all ready to go. Okay? So, now I'm going to add my beads for my wire wrap bead unit. And I know you guys are wondering, well, what the hey? How come you have so much wire left over?
That's
I'm
okay.
going to show you. I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to put on this little stripy stripe because I'm feeling these tiny little stripy stripes today. If I can get it on there. There we go. I'm going to use a Chirahishi. I'm going to use this shiny Pony Express. I'm going to use another Chirahishi. Another stripe. Come on now. Another stripe. There it is. And so that's ready to go. And now I'm just going to wire wrap it, just as I did from before. But I'm going to use my chain nose plier to help me measure that little neck that I need to walk around. Oh, it's Beth Brady, not from Sierra Madre. I get my Beths mixed up. My Beths. we have 2 Beths that watch. I'm
Only
sorry.
one Faye, and Faye's going for the day.
That's
so
right.
Faye, we'll see you later.
That's right. You guys, I have all of you. You all have like these pictures in my head of what I.
Well, I love the
you
roll
know.
call that we did.
Yeah, we
a
need
few
to do
months
that
a
again.
few months ago
We
or a
need to
month
do that
ago.
again.
It was.
So
really
I'm
cute.
sorry. We have so many Beths. I always get my Beths mixed up, but I love you all. I love all of our Beths. So I'm putting my plier here in the angle, and I'm going to bring this wire again up and over the top, and I'm trying to put it in approximately the same place on the round nose plier so that my loops will be the same size, but don't stress over it.
Yeah,
You know, this is so busy.
Once this is made into a piece of jewelry,
No one's going to notice.
no one's going to be able to see any small variations.
No. I pull it down and I straighten that loop out. Now, I could, if I had had my loop on this disc already, I could slide it on, but I'm going to do that next. So we can just close this
it up.
up, right? So I'm going to hold it here, and this is when I kind of hold everything with my hands. Let me get this clear so you guys can see. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding all of this stable with my right hand, okay? And I'm going to just bring it round right underneath the loop, and I'm going to continue to wrap. And someone was asking what this technique is called. I call this kind of wire embellished disc. This was a class, a design that I originated in our Wild About Wire class from our bead shop brick and mortar days. So this is definitely an oldie but a goodie. So now I can continue to hold this piece in my hand, and I can just bring this wire down and around the unit to embellish it further. And I think that the antiqued wire against the bright, shiny copper Pony Express works really nicely. And then I still have wire left, so let me bring it back down the other way, right? You can embellish this as much as you want with wire, or as little as you want. You don't have to bring this wire down and around the unit at all. So now to finish it off, you can see around my original wire wrapping here, I'm just going to make another wrap over the top. Okay, just like that. Then I'm going to clip this away and tuck that little end right in. Be careful when you are clipping your wire so that you don't have wire fly up and hit you in the head. But there's my little unit. And let's add a little wire to this piece.
I made a plain one.
Yeah, look at that plain one, looks real nice. I'm going to add another, so we'll wire wrap this guy to this guy.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to antique, or unantique, I guess, or polish, I guess is the right word, whatever it's called.
I like unantique.
Unantique, right.
Can I unantique myself a little
Yeah,
bit?
totally. Unantique. Let's throw it back, dial it back a little bit. And I'm going to cut a piece of wire. Now we're going to do that connection point. And so if you were doing, let me show you here on this end. If we were doing, like, let's say a donut or a large disc that we wanted to use as a focal point of a pendant like this, right? I could just pass the leather through, and then instead of knotting it to form a single one, I could have that wire just splay out from going left to right, and that would be how we'd hang a pendant. We could then wire wrap something else on the bottom, like I could wire wrap this vintage find or something like that, and so it would be a pendant like here, like this, rather than something that connects.
I was sort of thinking when we had the three
We could also
hematite
connect it
ones,
this way.
kind of going in a row, that I don't know, that might make kind of a cool necklace coming down.
Coming down,
That's what I
yeah.
was thinking
It would be
earlier.
cool.
You know?
Like a necklace
Yeah.
and then the pendants, like
Sort of a
especially with
exaggerated
something
Y.
with, like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could do something, you know, we could add just a plain vintage find.
So this is
In
what
the
happens
piece.
whenever we get together and start making
Right,
stuff.
we
is that
start
We
designing.
start designing. We can't help
Right,
ourselves.
we can't help it. But see, you
It's
could,
impossible.
so there's a lot that could go on with this piece, right? So let me go ahead and attach this to this. So I've cut my piece.
Wow, we're reaching down into
Yes,
Sonora,
to Sonora. Hello.
Hi, Cecilia.
Hi, Cecilia.
Hola.
Mucho gusto. Emily and I love Mexico.
We do.
So much. So now I'm just going to come in. I'm leaving a little bit of space here. A little bit of wire, maybe that's an inch. And I'll come around and I'm wrapping over the top of this coil, that spiral, to kind of hold it in place a little bit. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, this is kind of how we wrap a briolette, you guys. Okay. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring this wire in and this short wire in. Just like a briolette wrap. Instead of a briolette, I have a disc in there. Okay? So it's the same exact technique, just different materials. All right?
You know, we need to do some briolette wrapping one of these days.
Yeah.
It's kind of been on my radar
Yeah,
for a bit.
I've done some on Free Tip Friday. We've done a little bit, but we need to do a whole focus on a bunch.
Can we have a
of
briolette
different-
wire wrap off?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It would be fun.
Be fun. So can you see how I'm gripping both of those wires underneath the head of my tool? I want both of those to be stable. Okay, so I'm going to bend this long one down at an angle. So can you see that? Still have that short wire sticking up, this wire coming out at a right angle. Now it's just wire wrapping just as I did before. Okay, same. So let me see if I can untangle my round nose plier here.
I got some great charts for briolette wrapping.
You do, I bet you do. Queen of the charts. So I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to go up and over the top. Reinsert my plier so I have room to bring the wire down and underneath. Now, before I get too excited and start to wire wrap, I need to connect it.
Don't forget to connect.
Don't forget to connect. I'm going to grip the loop and the short wire in my pliers, and now I'm going to just wire wrap it from the bottom of the loop to the top of the disc. Okay, now I have a whole other bunch of wire business going on here, so I can utilize this wire to, maybe I'll clip a little bit away, maybe I'll make a spiral on the back. I don't know, you tell me. You know, we've got this extra wire, so whoops, that's not so pretty though. Let me collapse that down a little bit and let's wire wrap that in. So we just, excuse me, we just spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral.
Spiraling.
And spiraling.
Out of control.
Spiraling. So see that? That can just live right on the back there, okay? And then this, I've also done on this guy, you could do a little, I don't know, a little coily coil, where you just make a little spring.
What?
I know, crazy, right? I just wrap it around the heads of my tool, my round nose plier, and then I'll nestle it in right there. So you can see I've added a little bit of business right there. Okay. Then I'll get, because it's a little loosey-goosey, I'll come in and tighten it up using that little thunderbolt right there. I'll do that one and I'll do that one. Sorry, am I using all of your tools or are you good?
I was
So
kind
see
of
that there?
It was
thunderbolt.
posited on the Facebook there that were you talking to the pie or to
I don't
everyone
know.
out there?
I don't know. I always talk to my wire, right? I talk
Who's the
to
boss
him.
of your wire?
I am that boss, right? Sometimes you just got to talk to him. So here's this guy. We're ready to go. Okay. So let me show you. We've got one more thing. Pardon me. We've got one more thing I want to share with you, and that's my favorite clasp in the whole wide world. I've used this clasp all the time when I don't know what clasp to use, especially with wire wrapping, and especially if I do a link bracelet. I'm like, I don't know what clasp I'm going to do. Maybe I should just make one. So let me show you how I do that. What I've done here, and let me just talk you through this portion because we'll end up with the clasp. I used, for the necklace part, I used some 1 millimeter distressed brown. Did I use distressed brown? Distressed light brown I used. Distressed light brown leather. And you can see I just doubled it over. And I don't know, maybe I used a couple of yards, so I'd have plenty of room to knot with. So I came in, my cord is all tangled up here. There we go. So I just doubled it over, put it through the loop on the pie, and just tied a simple overhand knot. And then I just went along adding whatever it is I felt like adding, right? So kind of Tahoe-esque, right? This would also make a really great just bracelet on its own like this.
I have a necklace sort of like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
and you guys, I didn't even measure. So you can see here I put on one of these Pony Express, but I put it on both strands, and then I started to divide, and I put some Tirahishi and then the Sahara Sands. Then I tied another knot, added a big shadow in this grouping, and I just went on, and you can see on this one, I'll be honest, I started to run out of beads, but I needed to make it long. So these last 2 units are a little longer. So, you know, whatever.
Well, the nice thing about this
out.
is no one would really know if you didn't tell us.
No, exactly.
So.
So I made these a little bit longer and put the beads on them as well. So this portion of the necklace, and this necklace door to door is probably close to 20 inches, I think. Can you grab? Do
Yeah.
you think you can grab that from me?
Lift your feet up.
There you go. Whoops. Ooh, you okay?
Yeah.
Oh, Emily just hit the camera with her head.
Sorry.
We need to take her to the hospital.
Forgot it was there.
No, you're okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
So that bonk, that was
me.
Emily. That
My
was
hard head.
right there. That was Emily. Oh, as long as you're okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die.
Oh my God. I also needed the leather. I needed them both.
Well,
It's all good.
yeah.
I got it. So this length, back to before Emily had her
Accident.
head injury. So it ends up being about maybe a little more than 12 inches or so. So, and then this with the 3, it was originally 3 of the pie. This was about 6.5 inches. So, yeah, but a little over 18 inches to sit nicely for me. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do that clasp. Oh, look, yours are coming right along. Look at how pretty they are. They're just fun little nuggets to have, you know. I just
Yeah, they don't
love
suck.
them. They do not. So I am going to cut some wire. I'm going to cut, I don't know, enough. Let me see. Let me measure this out. Can you guys tell that I never measure my wire? I'm going to cut 8 inches of wire. This is way too much wire for that class.
You know, I
but
have
I'm
going
going to
I
cut
have a
8.
thought of, can I tell you what I do with my wire cutting?
Yeah.
When I'm at home, I tend to cut really long pieces because I'm the only person I might hit with it.
Yeah.
If I'm in class, I tend to cut shorter pieces. But I like to cut a piece that's big enough to do the job and then have a little bit of leftover that I can use for something else. Once in a while in a magazine or a book, I'll see the instruction to cut 20 little tiny pieces of wire. 23
Right,
inch long pieces
right.
of wire, and it makes my head hit the desk just like that.
Just like that.
Where
That's right.
it feels like that's such a waste of
Yeah,
materials.
yeah.
And you know, this isn't it's not expensive wire. It's not pure, you know, silver or gold. But still, it's stuff that we don't need to be
wasteful
of.
on. Yeah.
And we can use a piece that's, you know, 6 inches long. I can still do something with that.
Yeah, so if I cut my extra away,
Yeah.
I always like to save my little bits of
I
wire
do too. I
because
have
you
a
never
jar
know.
on my desk for it.
Yeah,
So.
you never know. Emily and her jars. You never know what you can use it for. So can you see how I'm
know how I feel
also
about a jar.
using? I do. How I'm using my wire straightening tool, my nylon jaw plier, to get it all nice and straight. Okay, nice and straight there. Okay, so this looks great. So now I'm going to start. You would think, let me pull this in the middle here. You would think that I would start with the wire wrap loop down here, but you'd be wrong. We're actually going to start with the tip of the hook. So I'm going to measure, this is about, let me get my measurer. I'm going to bend the wire at maybe about 2 inches or so. I'm going to grab it from about 2 inches from the end, and I'm going to bend it all the way around. Okay? And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to
Lynn, you're asking about the tiny beads. Is it these tiny silver ones are the daisy spacers, and then these guys are the tide pool
beads, yeah. Then I'm going to see how I've bent, and I've come in with my chain nose plier and really just nicely kind of pinch that together. And that, you guys, is the tip of the hook right here. Okay? So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of figure out where I want my, about how long I need this hook to be. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start wire wrapping. I'm going to make my hook. This is going to be maybe like 1 inch and a bit, maybe like 1 inch, 1 1/16 maybe, or so, about there, or 1 inch, maybe even 1 inch and or that's 1/8, maybe 1 inch and a quarter, maybe, or so. And I'm going to bend the short piece of wire up and underneath. So that short piece of wire is what I'm going to do my wire wrapping with, okay? So can you see how I'm holding it there? And just with my fingers, I'm going to bring this, sometimes this wire wants to
move around.
So I'm going to really grip it with the fat part of my tool and get in there with my fingers and bring it around, okay? And I'm going to do about 3 little wraps. And again, you could do this with your bent chain nose, but I'm just going to do it with my fingers. And then before I do anything else, I straighten out that hook so everything's nice and straight. Can you see that? So I've got the tip of my hook is going to be up here, comes down, I bend that short piece of wire around, and I wrap. Now this little end, I'm just going to cut away. Your services are no longer needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there it goes. And I'm just going to pinch that little end in so nothing catches. Okay? So now it's time to embellish with a few beads. So I'm going to do that and pick out, I don't know, a smallish bead. I used a Silver Sands for that one, but I'll use a big shadow on this one because it really doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
I do like continuing the idea of the mix.
Yeah.
The unifying things are the leather, the pie stones are kind of the unifying, the wire colors unifying, but you've got these other places where you can play around with the texture.
Yeah,
and,
the texture and what beads you're using.
And having some movement, these donuts are pretty static. Now adding the movement in the leather and the beads sliding around, it's great.
Works nicely. So you can see I've got this guy, and so now we're just going to wire wrap like we've done 1,000,000 times before.
How many times?
1,000,000. And I don't need to attach it onto the leather at this point. I would attach it afterwards. So I'm just going to make a closed off wire wrap loop. So bend at an angle. Try to ignore how dirty my hands are getting, but that's just what happens with wire. It'll wash. I'll wash them before I have lunch, I promise. Come around. And you want to make this loop large enough, you guys, so that 2 strands of that leather will go through. So I want to make sure that I make this loop large enough. So that looks good. Now I'm going to wire wrap this closed. And if this were attaching, though, to something that it needed to attach to, like a wire wrap loop that was closed, I'd attach it at this point before I wire wrap it. Okay? But I just bring it around, bring it around, bring it around, that 180 at a time. And now I'm just going to continue. Since I have extra wire, why not? Bring it around. And I'll end up with the wire wrap right over that wire wrap, that original wire wrapping I made at the beginning. Just like so. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Kate, you make this look easy. I have been wire wrapping, you guys, for almost 30 years. So I have years and years of muscle memory in my hands. But I'll be honest, this is a project that is a great place to jump in on. And you know, you're not going to get graded. Just jump in with the wire. Wire's your friend. Don't be afraid of it.
I mean, I'll say again, it was my first ever thing.
Was your
and
first thing, Bran?
I had you there
Yeah.
to you know, maybe guide me, but basically all you were telling me was you're the boss of the wire.
You're the boss of that wire. I've been saying it for years.
And I was pretty happy with my very first project.
Yeah, you
so.
did a great job. And, you know, the more we practice and the more we play around with wire, you know, the better you're going to get. So can you see here how I've just kind of made that nice little wire wrapped unit? And to make the hook, I just push this, the what's going to be the hook back just a little bit. And I can bring it around my round nose plier or something that's a little bit bigger. If I had, I don't know, if I had like my
Sharpie.
trusty pencil, this is a good size for that. Might be a little bit big. Or you could use your round nose. Maybe I'll use this round nose, the fat part of the round nose plier. And I'm just going to bring it around like that to form the hook. And then that little tip, what I do is I pull it up just slightly, a little bit, just to make sure that it's nice and it can stay nice and closed. And so then the way I attached it to the leather was I just cut a piece. And yes, Kim is commenting about Brandon. You've been around before. Brandon and I have actually been friends for a long, long time. This is Brandon's first foray into bead shop, but we have known each other. We go back quite a ways, it's for sure. So see how I've passed my 2 pieces of leather through the loop? And I've used, you could use like a leather crimp or I don't know, whatever you like, whatever works for you. But I'm going to wire wrap it closed using a piece of this 22 gauge. So I'm going to just use another piece that's maybe, I don't know, 3 inches in length or so. And I'm going to kind of have a little bit of leather hanging out from the other end.
So
And
this is sort of like a silk wrap.
yeah,
but with
kind
wire.
of, but with wire. But I don't like cross it over or anything
Right.
like that. So you can see I've got a good length here that I can hang on to. And I just get my wire, and again, I have a little bit of a length of wire there, so I can really hang on to it. And then I'm going to just kind of bring this sucker around, and I'm going to wrap up towards the loop, like so. And then once I do that, I'm going to wrap down towards the tails, like so, like this. And if you have a little bit of space, like see I have a little bit of space there, I'm going to close it up, like so. And it looks like somebody asked about how sturdy this clasp is. The clasp with this bend is pretty sturdy. Let me see if I can get one that has a, I'll just throw it in here. Since it has that bend to it, it really, that bend really gives it a lot of strength. You could, and sometimes I do, when the clasp is still flat, I will go ahead and hammer it a little bit with my hammer on my bench block, and that also always helps to work harden it. But as we're wrapping and doing all of this, we're really adding a lot of work hardening to this wire. So here I could spiral up the ends if I wanted to. I don't know, maybe I want to. I don't know. I don't know if I do or not. So let's just go ahead and make the tiniest of spirals here. Get it in there and really just kind of, you know, a little curve. It's just kind of a little round thing. Whatever works for you. And then this one I'll just cut. I'll clip away and burnish that little end of the wire around so I can really push that end in so it doesn't catch. So you can see I still have these tails. I could make the tails intentionally longer and bead them or knot them or whatever, but I'm going to come in and clip this side away as well. So Emily's also been working on some stuff that we've got going on here.
I did a little extra credit.
Yeah, let's see what we've got. Let me get rid of all this stuff. Look at you. Great.
No, that's a dangle.
Oh, that's a dangle.
Yeah.
Right? Right, so you could connect them that way.
Yeah.
How fun. That would look great.
So, the opening here formed by the bugle being a little bit big kind of gives you a natural place to hang things from. And any of these actually have a little bit of room to sort of squeech in there, but the bugle kind of does a good job. So.
Yeah, it looks great.
Can I ask one
really
question
good.
I've
Yeah,
been
sure.
wondering about since the beginning? You said that you might do the polishing afterwards?
Yeah, I
How
could.
does that work?
Yeah, so I would just, if I used like this, this oxidized wire and I wrapped with it, I would just wrap with it oxidized. And then I'd come in. It may give you a little more of a heavier oxidation on this piece because maybe you can't get in there quite as well with your Pro Polish pad. But it really just depends on what people like. So you can see I'm using this oxidized wire, and you may like the look of dark wire anyway, right? So if this is here, this one's here, and I now wire wrap this closed. Where's my round nose plier? You can see, and you also, as I said, you might just want to leave it and have that contrast in between your shiny and your dark. And the liver of sulfur does leave this wire kind of matte. I would wipe it a little bit because you can see using all of this dark wire, see how my hands have also become oxidized.
So you just
Or also
go
dark.
in and
Yeah, so with the Pro Polish, I'd just come in and kind of polish it up that way. But you want to make sure whatever you're doing with the wire, I might give it a little bit of a, if you were going to leave it and not polish it, I might give it a little bit of a pass through a paper towel or something to take any of the residue off
The
that you
loose
might
stuff.
run. Yeah, and so I'd come in there, and then I'll come in here and tighten that up. And then,
Do you need a drink of water? You
no,
said
I've got something over there.
Okay.
I'm starting to,
Get a little.
as usual, you lose my voice a little bit. So can you see how just that little bit of a pass with the Pro Polish pad
Yeah, it brightens that little
brightens
spiral
it up? Yeah, brightens it up,
That's
and
what I
I'll
was
turn
wondering.
around the back.
Yeah, and the whole
And
point
do
of,
that there.
of oxidizing and polishing like this is to show off all the texture that you've got. So especially when we do it on things like the spiral, we want those recessed areas to be a little darker, and the top, the highlights, to be a
To
little
be, yeah, a
brighter.
little
It's
shinier.
really great here on this spiral on the link to the next one. You can really see how the highlights are polished and the low lights
Yeah,
are dark.
and you can see
And
it
that gives
really.
you a lot of depth and texture.
It would really look nice with that clasp. And again, something like this, I actually don't seal this wire. You could using like Ren Wax, stuff like that. You could just, I might give it a once over with a wet paper towel, a little damp paper towel to take off the residue, but I've never really had an issue.
Yeah, and
with that.
polishing off the highlights, usually that takes off most of the loose stuff.
Most of your stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really it. You can see we have really accomplished a lot of embellished donuts, pie, discs, wow, whatever you want to call them. I think it's great. I have been touching my face with my dirty hands. Am I covered?
No,
with-
you're
am I
actually okay.
Am I
Yeah,
all right?
yeah.
Before we move the camera back, right?
That's usually my job.
Right? It's crazy. So again, yeah, just if you are worried about the oxidation staining, with a, rub it with a little bit of a damp cloth, but you should be in good shape there. So it was really fun.
Oh, I
It was
can't wait to
fun.
finish mine. I really
So-
like it.
Such
coming
a
along.
throwback. Yeah, these really look nice. And the shiny silver is a nice mixes
Contrast.
nicely. Yeah.
You know,
with
the
that.
other thing I noticed about those donuts as I was playing around with them is they really are different on each side. Mm-hmm. So you can plan a front and back
Yeah,
for
you
this.
definitely can.
And I think it's really nice to have your pieces kind of laid out in a row to think about while you're
Yeah,
working
do a
on
little
them.
planning, not so off the cuff.
I mean,
I
off the
like
cuff is fun too, but
Yeah.
sometimes you discover something later that you
Right,
wish you'd
that
changed.
you wish you had changed. I'm going to give this camera back to Brandon, and she is going to change that around, and I'm going to take off this arm. This camera arm here.
So I don't bang my head on it again.
Right. Well, you seem
I
like
have a
you're
mark?
doing. You're doing all right. You're okay. Right there.
Between Kate smears and
Into
your
my
That's
mark.
right. I know my hands. They're pretty dirty.
Yummy.
Right.
Actually, look
This
at
is
that
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So let me go ahead, and this is a little longer than what I had earlier.
That's why she didn't have anything on today, Brandon.
So I could
So
pull
she
this,
could put this on. Yeah.
this on. Where did it go? There it is. I see it. So I added one more disc, so it should actually fit a little. I made it to fit a little tighter like this. But whatever works. Right? That's about where. I don't know if you can see with all my... Should I get rid of the scarf
Sure.
in a big flourish?
Yeah. Just that direction.
There we are.
Thank you. Perfect. Yes, there you go.
Right.
Much better.
So
Much
it's a little
better.
So
Yeah.
you can see.
Yeah.
So, but whatever length, whatever works for you. And again, you could use the larger pie in the center. Whatever. World's your oyster.
I might have to do one with the 3 pie dangling coming down this way in a longer necklace.
Yeah, it'd
you know?
be really cool.
Yeah, it'd make
And
a really big
slap
unit.
a tassel on the
Something,
back,
yeah,
on
chain
the
tassel
bottom.
maybe?
Beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful.
Cool.
So it's a great, great jumping off point. You can find all of the particulars that we use today in the project over on the project page on beadshop.com. There's also a recipe that you can follow to kind of, you know, you need a disc, you need a this, a that, so you can kind of create your own
Tailor it to your own taste.
your own color palette on that. So before we wrap it up, we've got a couple of things to show you. We do have a special today, being it Facebook Wednesday. We are doing today, when you place an order, if you want to jump in and grab some vintage finds. All of our vintage finds, which includes
The
our
new pies.
discs, the new pies, old pies, new pies, all the vintage finds. If you put in your coupon, in the coupon code, discount code box, you put in vintage 25, we'll take 20% off all vintage finds. Applies to vintage finds only. And today is the 23rd of May. So this discount is good until midnight Pacific time
Our time.
tonight. Yes, our time. So you have plenty of time today to shop for those. Again, if you're watching this and you're not watching this live, I'm sorry that the discount doesn't apply, but sign up for our newsletter, you guys. We do discounts and promotions and giveaways all the time. So if you want to be included on things in the future, make sure that you're on our newsletter. So I'm going to hand that to you, Em. And I have a little raffle today, and the raffle is good for an hour after we finish our broadcast. And right now on the West Coast, on the 23rd of May, it's about 5 minutes after 12. So until about 5 minutes after 1 o'clock our time. So if you're watching us live and you're shopping, jump in the shipping notes and put in Wild About Wire, and you'll be entered in a drawing to get a whole bunch of wire. We pulled kind of all of our bare copper, all the way
sizes.
from 16 gauge all the way to 26. So there's 6 sizes. There's some pro polish pads, and there's a bottle of liver of sulfur.
Yep. All
And
you
so-
will ever need.
all you'll ever need. So we'll
Yeah.
put that in your, we'll do the drawing a little later this afternoon. Drea always posts who is won over on our website, on our Facebook page. But you'll also be notified via email when your order goes out. So put Wild About Wire in the shipping notes to enter my Kate's Wire Kit raffle. I guess that's it.
Gosh, it went fast.
It did. Wire goes fast. When you do
It does.
wires,
It does.
wires good times.
You're right.
Wires
You're
good
right.
times. Good times. Good times. Well, it's so great. It was great. I see a lot of you guys are joining us live for the first time.
Love it.
So thank you so much for joining us today. On Fridays, you'll see me on Friday, on Free Tip Friday. I'll probably have some more wiry goodness for you guys. And we did want to mention your thanks. Thank you guys for all of your patience. We had a couple of big sales, and we've had a couple of people on vacation and stuff. So our usual super speedy order time has fallen behind just a touch, but not to worry. Kara's shipping packages as we speak,
Yep.
and
Things are
Myra's
going
filling,
out the door.
Karen's filling. I'm going to get back to filling orders. So we really, really appreciate your support of our very small women-owned business. We appreciate that. So thank you for being patient with you while your orders march out the door. But we're almost back on track. So we really, really appreciate your patience. Next week, you're doing a cool guy thing.
Yeah, we're kind of working towards thinking about Father's Day, and I kind of grouped this into fathers, uncles, brothers, sons, nephews, friends of the
I don't know,
family.
your postman.
Your postman.
I don't
We have a
know.
nice postman
We
here.
do.
The
We love
UPS
our-
guy,
Yeah,
brings
of
you all
our
these
guys.
packages.
that's right.
So again, we have a really cute bracelet for next time.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
I shouldn't say cute. I should say
No,
it's very manly.
It is, but it's
But
a
it's,
cool
it's
piece.
super attractive.
Yeah.
I would see scaling that up and down a couple of different
Yeah.
ways to also be
You could
for
also scale it to a necklace. I think
absolutely,
that'd be cool.
yeah.
So Emily's going to be doing some fun stitching with that. We're going to be using some wax linen, so it's
And
going
some
to be a cool.
shadows.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool. No, not
Oh
shadows.
no, that's right. Sorry,
No,
I beg your pardon. Not shadows.
We changed the design.
That's right. It's the
Hematite
hematite cubes.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. And then while we're off at Beat and Button, June 6th, the June 6th episode.
Kate's going to be
you're-
away.
Yeah, Janice and I will be away, and you'll be flying solo on
I
that.
know, I'm
and we've
excited,
got
excited.
a fun project
Yeah,
for that as
yep.
well. So that's what we've got, you guys. That's what's shaken here. Thank you again so much for joining us live. We really, really appreciate your support of our business. I'll see you on Friday for Free Tip Friday. Thanks to you guys behind the camera and Janice and Gita for linking, and Brandon is always doing some great camera work. Juggling like 3 cameras at once, all at the same time.
Thanks for
So,
all the support, guys. We
yeah,
really
we
appreciate
really
it.
super appreciate. So thanks so much, and I'll see you on Friday for Free Tip Friday.
See you guys. Bye. That was so fun.
Yeah, super fun,
Yeah,
right?
I really enjoyed that. I want to finish my project.
Yay.